Oh, I love the felling.
So you wear from Peter?
Get out. Let me introduce myself. I'm John Hodgson, the Reverend John Hodgson, the very first vicar of St Mary's Church at Hewith back in the 1800s. How you're entitled to ask, could I possibly be here talking to you now? Well, it beggars belief to me too. I've no idea, but those nice felling heritage people, using some incredible 21st century technology, with which I'm not at all acquainted, have whisked me forward in time to talk to you all in the year of our Lord, 2015. Goodness, golly gosh, gracious me. Have you got the picture? And I have to say, you may be nearly 200 years into my future, but you still look like the canny felling folk I knew back then. And I loved back then. Except I've noticed you're all so much taller. How old are you? 8. 8! You're about the size of a miner back in my time, working down the pit. Actually, at 8 you would be working down the pit. And I've noticed something else about you. You've all got teeth.
Right. Some of them.
You're also less facially hirsute.
Oh.
That means hairy, facially hairy. Because back then, well, back then the women also had beards and tashes and fibers.
And
you're all wearing much nicer clothes. Though some of you are not wearing enough clothes, according to my 18th century 66-year-old eyes. But what I've really noticed, and we would notice on a day like this, that you're very, very much less malodorous. That means smelly, you know. You're very much less smelly than you were back then. I bet you take a bath once a month, do you?
Votes for women!
My parishioners will never believe me, and I'm not allowed to tell anybody at all about this visit.
It's all nice.
According to the Doctor Who. Sorry, according to the doctor who brought me here. Anyway, you're probably wondering why I was brought here at all. It's because I've always been interested in history myself, and now realise I've become a part of your history. Namely, that I was involved in the Miners' Safety Lamp and the Felling's very first school. This, in fact, is the very first school. That's some people taken outside of the first school, and that's it before it was demolished to make way for the bypass. For now, let me just say how marvellous it is to be in this Beamish Living Museum. Isn't this fantastic? Yes. In this pit cottage, in this pit village, with the pit itself, with the school, with the chapel. We've got one in Felonshaw, you know, the chapel. And with the pit ponies and the stables, why, it's just like being back in the Felon. In my day. I won't bore you with my whole story. You know, when people say I won't bore you...
Are you sure you're in the right period? I think you're...
But actually, I don't need to tell you because I'm told you can read all about me on the internet, whatever that is. Or you could read it right now on your smartphone, whatever that is. Or you could be looking and talking to your cousin in Australia on your tablet, whatever that is. And the video that's been made can be seen on YouTube or Facebook by this evening.
If I've got the buttons
I'm
right.
saying all this, but I've absolutely no idea what any of these things are. Very briefly, here's my story. I was born in what you now call Cumbria, the day before bonfire night in 1779. My father was a stonemason. Unlike Gateshead and the Felling at that time, we had lots of endowed schools. Generally, the teachers were vicars, and it was the custom in every family for one son to receive schooling, with a view to taking holy orders. And so I studied at the grammar school of Bampton from the age of 7 to... Where are you going? From the age of 7 to 19. I acquired an interest in natural history and local antiquities through my childhood while rambling through the lovely countryside. Have you been to the Lake District? Lovely, isn't it?
15 minutes.
My parents were too poor to let me go to university, and at the age of 20 I had earned my own living as the teacher of a village school near Lake Ullswater. There as head teacher, actually I was the only teacher, I earned, wait for it, this is how much I earned, £11 a year.
Wow.
In 1801 I taught at a school in Sedgefield and my pay doubled to £20 a year. The vicar and the curates helped me by lending me books. I was offered a job as director at some ironworks near Newcastle with a whopping salary of £300 a year. But I didn't want to be a businessman, so I refused it. In 1802 I failed my exams to get into the church. In 1803 I went to Lanchester near Durham, and there in 1804 I succeeded in passing my exams for the church, and I became a curate at Esh. Since that's very close to Lanchester, I kept the school on as well. Well, you notice now I've got a salary for being teaching at the school, and I'm getting a few bob for being a curate. In 1806 I left Lanchester to take up an appointment as a curate at Gateshead, St Mary's, that one right near the town. And I'm being told today that St Mary's, since there's nobody lives around the church anymore, it's now a heritage centre. So that makes me very happy. If it can't be a church, it can be used for local history.
Is that the one next to the sage?
Yes. Yeah. I must have done well in Gateshead because only 2 years later, in 1808, I was promoted to vicar at Jarrow with Hewith. My pay was £100 a year, and I was happy to serve the very church which had been founded by the Venerable Bede. That's the one in Jarrow. Though between you and I favoured Hewith over Jarrow. Particularly so in 1810 when I married Jane Bridget Kell, the daughter of Richard Kell. He was the man who had that great big quarry at Windy Nook and elsewhere. Very wealthy he was. Some say I married him well. In my spare time I wrote a few local history books, and my interest in the Romans, did I say I was interested in the Romans?
No, I said you were interested in history.
Well, I'm interested in the Romans, and I'm in the history book as the man who identified that the creator of the Roman wall was the Emperor Hadrian. Before that, we used to just say, I'm going to the Roman wall. Now everybody says Hadrian's wall, don't they?
Yeah.
To me. My time in the felling had me often walking up and down the Recondike. That's the long straight road through the felling that goes all the way to the port and the fort at South Shields. You call it the Lee Lane. I've learned today.
That's where we live.
That's where you live. Well, you live on the Recondike. And I learned today that the school that's adjacent to the Lee Lane is called the Roman Road School. Oh, I like that. That makes me very happy when history's kept alive. And because the Recondike skirted a very small hamlet that didn't have a name at all, I called it Reckonton. And I'm very happy to learn today that it still bears that very name that I give it. Back in 1812, a little clay pot filled with 20 or so ancient-looking coins was dug up in Hewith churchyard. And I went public with the find after discussions with my colleagues at the Society of Antiquaries. After much head-scratching by the experts, I declared them to be Stychus, from the reign of King Egfred, who ruled Northumbria during 670 AD to 685 AD. I believe that the Hewith church must have been established then. Well, you can imagine my shock today when I've been told that in 1980s, scientists determined that pot was no older than medieval, and the coins were made from Georgian copper. So I got that wrong. But still, there is a pub called the Cup and Coins, or it was called the Cup and Coins, wasn't it? So that was named after that. As you know, in May 1812, there was a massive colliery explosion at the Felling Pit, which caused the death of 92 people. I appealed for help to the widows and orphans and published my funeral sermon and an account of the accident. Telling of the accident to the newspapers and publishing a full report and building a memorial to the poor did not go well down with the Brandleys. because pit owners never liked the bad news to be spoken about. It was always hushed up. And while I'm denying the stakes, this was not my fault that the obelisk in Felling Churchyard, have you seen it? Did you know it had a mistake of the 24th of May 1812 was a Sunday. The pit was shut on a Sunday. And there wasn't 91 people killed, there were 92. Though there was only 91 named. I think one of those suffragettes tells me that she knows who the name of the 92nd child was. But, okay, I was in charge of the whole thing, so I do take responsibility. For the next few years I was making experiments and attending meetings of the Society for the Prevention of Accidents in Coal Mines. In 1815 I visited the Dudley coalfield to look at ways of preventing colliery accidents. These were not satisfactory, and later in the year Sir Humphrey Davy, that's later in 1815, we're exactly 200 years on, Sir Humphrey Davy visited Newcastle and he became a friend of mine, and I helped him to complete the invention of the safety lamp. I was one of the first to go into the mine with a new lamp and explain its way on. And explain this principle on the I'm also proud to say that I built in my parish the first school, so that ordinary children could have the same privilege I had in getting an education. Gateshead had done the same when I was there. Gateshead and Felling, in fact, were among the first towns in Britain to leave the field and getting the ordinary bairns off the streets or down the pits. And what's particularly special about Felling is it was the very first one that was absolutely free. The one in Gateshead I think charged a penny a week. I'm here at Beamish because I know you're commemorating the 200th anniversary of the safety lamps, not just of Davy, but of George Stevenson and Dr. William Clanny, as well as the 200th anniversary of the school I built at Hewitt. 5 years after I built the school, I left Hewitt to be vicar in Northumberland and to continue writing my history books, and I've been there till now. I'm 66 now, and I'm not a well man. Between you and I died later this year. But I'm cheered up enormously to be here talking to my friendly fellow Felling folk. That's not easy to say for a 60-year-old. The Felling is a remarkable place, and it gives me a huge amount of pleasure to have been part of its history. I've been told today by the heritage people that very close to where the pit owners, the Brandlings, lived, there's now a new street of houses called John Hodgson Close. I'm very delighted with that. I wish the Brandlings were still there, because they would not like to have John Hodgson.
Where's that?
It's
Yes. Where the
the
library
Wheat
is.
Sheaf, and you know the Wheat Sheaf pub
Where the library
just
is.
down
Down there.
It's over the bridge.
behind the Wheat
Towards
Sheaf.
the
There's a whole
schools,
bunch of new
Brandling
houses.
School.
They pulled down some masonettes or whatever.
Where,
Some brand new
where
houses.
Ian goes drinking.
Down like Grace
The Malting House, it's right that
Oh,
side.
is that by
That side,
Christchurch?
right outside the Malting House. Yes, down towards Christchurch. Yeah. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And if you want a picture with me, I'm happy to stand here for 8 hours while the others. Oh no, I forgot, you now take selfies. Cameras, whatever.
Thank you very much. What do you call it? I don't know.
Did you get all that?
I did.